first of all, I just want to tell you thank you so much for joining me tonight. It is an absolute pleasure to interview a trailblazer for HBCU. Whoop, whoop.
Yes, I love my HBCUs.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm here with Mrs. Theresa Merritt-Watson, Operation and Sales Director, author, and advocate for HBCUs, as we previously said. Ms. Merritt-Watson, can you give us a little background about your life?
Oh, I'll make it as short as I can. I went to an HBCU. I went to Shaw University, graduated from Shaw, and then I worked in the corporate world, and I decided that I would pursue some of my passion, my passion, and that's working with African American population, particularly children. And now my focus is helping to change the trajectory of African American in education and economics. And so I have written books at a first to third grade level in order for people to start looking at the great things that we have done to contribute to the development of this country. And I think that and one of the reasons that I did do that, because I believe that it is important for our people, particularly, and for other people to see what our contributions have been and are still formulating right to this day. Um, I used to, at some point, used to take trips to HBCUs and expose our kids to the great things that HBCUs have done, and they continue to do. And as I have made it a point that my book that's written at first and third grade level, I have made it a point to make sure that I highlight the inventors or scientists or whomever is in my book, if they attended a HBCU, and which HBCU it was, um, or is, and also highlight the fact that there are many people that did not go to college. So like Frederick Jones, he's a self-taught mechanical engineer. Lewis Latimer, he's a self-taught mechanical engineer. You can still fulfill your purpose and your passion if you decide not to go to college. And we have to really be in tune that everybody will not go and do not have the desire to go. And so then, there are some that went to PWIs and have been successful as well. But there had been a plight to get rid of the HBCUs. They say that it does not serve the purpose now that we don't really have integration issues,
Mm,
segregation issues anymore. And so just to make sure that we keep these things in our forefront, I think it's important that all of us take the time to pick a school, just one school.
mm.
Um, my last count was 102, but I know some have gone through some real change. And I think if every African American donated $5 a month, it would make a tremendous difference in our school. You can just pick a school. And so I think that is a definite plus, um, that shows you that we can make a difference in different ways and different avenues, not just in the children life, but in the little children life, but in the children that's going off to college. And so the things that are transpiring in our community, from the lack of education, for the dynamics that's going on in elementary, middle, and high school, and a lot of times our HBCUs, one of their main things is funding. It's not necessarily misappropriation of funds, as people have told it, but it's just funding, having the funding. They don't have the huge endowment of the Harvard, but they could have if we all pitched in and did our $5. You won't miss $5, actually, for
Right.
the most time. For the most part, you can make a little tiny sacrifice, and most Black people actually have learned how to make sacrifices. So a $5 sacrifice is really good. Um, and so if we can, in my position, I believe that the things that's impacting our community, the education, economic, those are my two areas of focus on. I think those are things that we actually can correct. We
Mm,
can, you know, and so I don't really listen to the pessimistic person that tells me it's not possible, but I do believe it is something we can do.
Now, and in speaking on that, you know, when we talk about the HBCU, did affirmative action, was that affected with HBCU as well?
Well, I can't really answer to that because there are some things we weren't the people that benefited the most from affirmative action.
Mm, right,
And so I can't really respond to it because you have to really do some major research to determine whether we benefit. People talk about it like we're the only one that benefited from it,
right,
but in the true picture of the things, white women benefited more than anyone else. And
right.
so we still had to make very big concessions, and we still were not getting the grants and the from the big NIH and the NEAs and the HHS or those type of entities. And then when you get the grants, they're much smaller.
Mm.
If affirmative action was to do what it was designed to do, then the research at some of the HBCUs would have been parallel to none, but that's not the case.
I love how you answered that. Very knowledgeable. Like you're careful, but you're extraordinarily knowledgeable. Now, specifically, your book is called The Black Tech, and you've written books before, but this one is very special, like you said. Why was it important to create it in the way that you did? Like you have a character, your character is speaking in first person, telling the readers, hey, I am going in my car to da 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 da, and this is the creator or inventor that did this thing. So how did you come up with that concept?
Well, my goal here is to make sure that people feel like they're part of. So
Mm,
if you're part of something, you're going to definitely speak in first person,
right,
So
right.
and so to make sure that you feel like you're part of something, and in order to do that, you have to be able to make sure that the person can identify with the item. One of the things that I kept looking at is what can kids gravitate to, and you get them interested in it to the point where they will pick it up, retain it.
Mm,
And so technology is something that most kids know something about. They identify with the security system. They identify with Zoom, especially after
right.
COVID. They identify with the cell phone and GPS. These are things, and the refrigerator truck. All of our kids, I would say, have gone onto an elevator, but I don't think many of them will understand the dynamics of an elevator that we used to ride when the lady used to open the door and close the door. You get in, you get out. There's been trouble. There's been some trouble because when the elevator stops, it always jolts. So if a Black man sort of touches the person that's opening the door, it could be problems for them, you
Right.
know. But you know, Alexander Mile did not create the elevator. He created the automatic elevator door opener. And it's even hard for when you're talking to young students and you tell them that the elevator had to have somebody had to have somebody to open the door. Um, they're always surprised that that actually transpired. And so so I was reading my book to some kids. So they like, why didn't that door open automatically? And it's just so funny to listen to them with their questions, about the
Mhm.
elevator door. But it was it's important that every character in the book they be able to identify with. Even Duncan with the 3D glasses. We go to the movies right now and use those things, and he's that's a man that's still living. Granted, he's in his 80s, but he's still living. And so we have quite a few people in the book that are still living. I like to highlight the fact that that they are. I make sure I tell you their death date, birth date. I don't highlight it when I'm actually doing presentations of the book, but the students need to know that I think it's just as important to know that we're making inventing things today, as important to know that we were inventors when we came to this country, and it was invented. Once we became enslaved, we still invented things. And so the transition, there's not much that can actually stop you from the growth in our community, from growing in our community. It has to be a self-taught thing. So are you something that's pulling you away from your natural environment?
I love it. It's not just Black tech, it's Black history. Um,
Right.
marketable. Marketable. So I feel like that is very important to reintroduce it back into
Mhm.
schools. And you wrote this specifically for kindergarten, like a certain age group.
Yeah, first to third grade. I
Mhm.
did first to third grade. See, when your student go into school,
Mhm.
child should never leave home, particular African American child should never leave home without some Afrocentric knowledge, just some
Okay.
basic stuff. You know, you're not going to give your kids the total history of the 300 patent that George Washington Carver had,
Right.
but you give him some things, and you won't tell him, give him misinformation. Like George, you know, people say, oh, he invented the peanut butter. He did not invent the peanut butter, but there's so many other things that he invented with peanuts. And that would give the kids the incentive to look up. The 300 patents is nothing to snark at, but
Right.
and the crop rotation, without his knowledge about crops and land and so on, we would not have the crops and the vegetation that did have. We don't have as much as we used to, without the things and his knowledge and his research. But he's not in the book, but as in my next book, he's in there. But when I wrote this book, it was just as important for the students for the parents to understand, I can't let my kids go without knowing who they are.
Right.
That and then when people understand who we are, I think the respect of African Americans will come when we understand who we are as a people. Um, you're not asking for no handout. You're not asking for anything. This is who it is. You're right in there. Your elevator door open because of us. You
Okay.
have the broom, you have the bed because of us. You know, you have the broom and the dustpan and the washing machine. And so you start taking pride in who you are as an individual. You're not looking at you as a negative, because that's what you see mostly on TV. That's the perception that people have, and they don't even live in this country.
Right.
And so I think when we get it, everyone else will get it. You know, I will tell you, one of the amazing things when you're talking to people, and I said, well, one of my goals is to help change the trajectory of African American in education and economic. And, you know, so we become unified. That is just like a natural process for us, is to be unified. We help each other. That's just something we have always done, regardless of whether you're living in the North or the South. When
Right.
the Southerners moved to the North, those people still helped each other after they have become indoctrinated in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, New York, wherever they were. They were they were still like a team, a village. They embraced each other. We can really get that back now and not have the issues that we have and some of these struggles that we have. But instead, sometimes I feel like that we pick up other habits that's not innately ours. Um, African Americans, just not. And so when you pick up these habits, they have some of them is destructive for our people, because you know we're used to being on a team, being
Right.
together. Um, like the way we spend money. Um, we will follow people in their efforts and energy of doing things. Like I personally think a bigger picture of things that's going on in today's market would have been better served if we would have taken it and fought for human rights. It would have encompassed everybody, and nobody would be able to just arbitrarily pick out something and say, this is what we're fighting for, this is what we're fighting for. But if, when you say human rights, it includes everybody. So
Right.
everybody would be on that same playing field, and we wouldn't have all the struggles and the pull. But more important than that, I think that sometimes things that don't relate to us, we'll get on a bandwagon of something while we're trying, while we're still trying to fight reading, math,
Mm.
or Black history, things that can help us grow. We have a community where we virtually see no African American owners in our community, from the 7-Eleven to the food store to the pizza parlor to the sandwich shop. We all ever see any in our own community. We
Right.
see people making money in our community. And so therefore, we always circulating the dollar outside of our community.
That's
Our
right.
kids need to see us. Now, I think it's important for them to see us in that successful position, you know, and that's the reason why I wrote the book. I think it's important for us to start looking at us a different way.
I love it. I mean, you're impassioned. And again, it goes back to you're not just wanting to put together a project because we're in the now of all of these things going on. You carefully thought about every single thing that you added to Black Tech. So we're going to call it by its name because that's, you're educating the cultures of what it means to be Black. And not just any Black, but a successful Black that is
Yeah.
oftentimes swept under the rug. So, do you plan to include it? And I feel like even high school students, all the few names that you mentioned, they probably wouldn't have a clue.
Well, I did a podcast with with the older man,
Mhm.
and he said that he got the book and uh he knew one of the people he knew, and that was Gladys West. And so, and I will tell you that the book has been sent out to people from the age of 20 to 85.
Mhm.
No one came back knowing more than two people.
Okay.
And so they knew the items that they invented, but they didn't know who invented them.
Right.
And so is I had to write it at this level if I wanted the older people to be intrigued by it. Because
Okay.
if you do something in a storytelling way at the fifth or sixth grade level or even a high school level, people may glance at it, but the little kids will not pick it up.
Right.
And so I I um was hoping that I got more traction from the library to have the library pick it up, but it's really hard penetrating that system.
Mm.
And I was I know a lot of people are everything is expensive, and I saw a campaign the other day that says to a lot of people that this is people are making so much money, so much profit, just being greedy in this period because they can. And so a lot of our people are having problems in buying food and clothes and maintaining their rent because rent's high and the electric. And so it's hard, as one of the women said to me, she said that it's hard for her to spend that money on a book when she in desperate need of rice. And so, I have to be conscious of that. And so I've asked corporations to buy the book so I can give it to the students in the urban and rural communities. I have not yet gotten the feedback, but I'm expecting some. Uh, but I think that when you can start changing a child, see, one of the things I want to say to you, every child has a passion or an interest, and that their passion is going to help fulfill their purpose. And so the when a child, no matter what their economic position is, I don't really care what's going on at home, but if you nurture their passion, you could see the child knowing that I got to learn this. They start developing things on their own.
Hmm.
They learn just if you, um, I know a young man told me he dismantled, I think it was a radio, I think he said, and he became curious about the radio. I don't think he put it back together, was able to put it back together. I don't quite remember, but what I do remember is that he became curious. If you, and this guy to this day, he's an engineer. And I'm sure that that radio had a profound impact on how things work. And
Right.
so if you nurture you can't do this all and you say, oh, I'm overworked already. But you're going to talk about the stars. You're going to talk about the components that's possibly in a radio. You're going to talk about the circular not dot a circle, and you can incorporate like the face of the radio. I haven't seen a radio in a long time actually. So stuff were in my car, um, but you can use anything. You can use anything to actually create a to nurture a child's passion. You know, it's whether it's a circle. And so once you are able to nurture the passion, you give the kids a sense, oh, she's really interested in me, she really cares, I gotta, and those elements to go with it. And then what happens is that they themselves says, I got to learn more math. So when those math problem comes up, then you'll just dig it in. When those
Right.
reading problem comes up, because those things that they're creating now, particularly on the different circuit boards, the in a computer. We went from the big old clunky one sitting on your desk to an all-in-one computer and those type things, and not to a wireless keyboard. And those terminologies are something that the kids have to become familiar with. And
Right.
so they develop an interest in reading and math. And so if you just take the time to say, okay, what is John like? What is John interested in? And just keep talking about it throughout the week. And by the week's up, you have to touch bases with everybody.
Okay, I love it. So I feel like this next question, you could answer it. Like you definitely would be able to answer it. What does Black legacy mean to you?
What Black legacy means to me is something that has been left for me, for an example, for me to hold on to, for me to be able to hold on to and keep passing it on.
Hmm. I love it. Now, exposing kids to tech aside from coding, and why do you think we don't teach Black history anymore in school? We teach coding, but when we think about all the other technical things that Black people have been responsible for, we don't see it anymore.
Well, I think, see, this is my theory on that. Black people don't really fight for things that has value for us
Mm,
in a way that it has stability.
right.
And you might fight a little here and a little there. But if you're looking at coding, for example. Now, one school started out coding. Coding is good. Um, but if you didn't learn coding until you got to college, you still could be happy. But if you don't develop pride and be able to get what you need, you still have a deficiency. But I
Right.
think for our community, like I said before, I think we go to school, we have accepted whatever curriculum or plan they say work for our students. If you never see anybody in it, every child on this planet in the United States know Martin Luther King, but do they know Alexander Miles? And
No.
so sometimes I feel like the school system give us enough to make us satisfied
Hmm.
and say they're doing something. But you can't say that you're doing something when you have this many kids not able to identify. And so this is one of the problems. See, when kids start having problems and not being able to identify with something, you start seeing it in first grade, then it passes to second grade, and third grade is the benchmark when you start testing. And so when you start testing, you see the deficiency. But I guarantee you that that child in first grade, even kindergarten, because people start kindergarten now. I think kindergarten for most states is actually optional, but most people utilizes it. Um, they start in the first grade. By the first 9 weeks of school, you can see a child deficiency,
Mm-hmm.
which says to me, okay, he's deficient here, let's fix that. And, but instead, you just keep right on teaching. And
Right.
most, and so that kid passes the second grade with the deficiency that he brings over from the first grade. But if you, in corporate America, if you have a situation like that, what will happen is that you don't bring it over, you fix it, and then you bring it over. It's
Right.
like if GSK, if GlaxoSmithKline had did a research, a clinical trial, and it killed 50% of the people, they would go back and either modify it, find out what's going on, or either they get rid of it.
Facts.
The school system is the only entity that I know of that will keep walking down the same road, getting the same results, plus or minus 5 degrees here. In 20 years, they increase by 5 or something like that. That no other agency I know would allow that kind of behavior. But we as African Americans accept it because we're the one on the bottom of the totem pole.
Right.
And so it's not necessarily to me the problem of the school. It is a problem of the African American community.
Right.
You
Right.
know, so is something that we can correct, but we got to know that it needs to be corrected. We're not saying go into the school and do a protest, but do your part at home, send your kids prepared, and you will see a difference and care about what they're teaching in the school. The things that we're fighting for in the school right now is, to me, absurd when you got kids that can't read,
Right.
when you got kids that can't do math, when you got grown people, like they 18, they're getting ready to exit the school and they don't have the tools that they need for, they don't have the life skills they need to raise a family, to take care of a family, to get a job, to go to college. You haven't prepared. The schools seem like in a lot of cases, we want you to graduate from high school, 12th grade, and we done. You know,
Right.
that's not life. Um, that's not beneficial to any child.
Right. It's not sustainable. I mean, the grading chart is like 30 something is or 50 something is passing. I can't remember, but when I was in school, that was failing. So yeah, it goes back to what you said. They dropped it down to meet the kids where they were instead of teaching the kids um to test out at their level, at their grade level. So
Well, I would tell you one of the problems I think is that kids don't do much critical thinking these days. We're not teaching enough to have kids even transfer knowledge, or be critical thinkers. And those two tools are actually really important for a development of a person in general.
right,
And so if you're just going to spoon feed the kids and you want them to regurgitate what you have taught them, that is really not schooling, you
right,
know. And so that's the struggle that a lot of students have. Even when they go to college, they have not become critical thinkers. And I have some friends that are professors, um, and they sometimes talk about the skills that some of the students are bringing with them to college, and how they have some of the attributes, but some of the basic things in college they're missing. But
mm,
you know, it's not. I think I think with us, we spend a lot of time embracing things without thinking about the consequences for us, for our kids. They went to school today, they had a great time. They were learning ABCs and two-digit numbers, learning how to write their name. Yeah, maybe even write some cursive. But I will say to you that I was on a boat ride. I was talking to a little kid. She was in second grade. And I said, "Oh, well, let's do some timetables," because she was talking about how she enjoys school. And her mother says, "Oh, my district don't do timetables to fourth grade."
Mm,
And I said, "Well, how about you? What do you do? Because you don't have to wait for the district to do it,
right,
you know." And because we didn't have all the resources that they have now. But one of the things, the baking, the cooking, the cleaning, um, you learn from that. You
right.
know, you learn how to measure through cooking. You know, and if you went to do a sandbox, I think the sand came in a 50-pound bag, and I would see sometime my husband would say to the boys, "Oh, you can lift 50 pounds." They say, "Oh, this is 50 pounds." Oh, and they look, they were, because now they can feel the weight of what 50 pounds. So then you have the estimation, and if you're doing a sheet of paper that's 8 by 10, you can tell the kid it's an 8 by 10. So when they see it somewhere else, they know there's an 8 by 10, you
Hmm.
know, little things that you can say, 8 by 11 actually, but little things you can say that just bring knowledge to the kids while they're at home, opposed to saying, "Just get me a sheet of paper," or "Bring me a red pen." And, just you can educate them and start that juncture at home. Teachers actually have a very difficult job, because now I go to the school board meeting, and I have done that for a long time. And so often you would not hear at a school board meeting. Now, this is about our children. Now, keep in mind the children belong to the parents, but
Right,
you do not hear them mention the word parent in a school board meeting. It's just, to me, is really a problem, you
right.
know? So I think to be able to change that, there are some things that you have to do. You got to change the mindset, which is actually very, very difficult to do, is to change someone's mindset. Um, Effective communication, which is, I think that will curtail some of the behavior issues that we have in school. And then we have to be able to retain that by giving them, different training. Like I do have a program called Lead and Read. It doesn't come out until May, latter part of May, but it takes the African American church. It joins my nonprofit. The church members will get a student in the community, and that student will call over the phone once a week and read to that volunteer at the church for 10 to 20 minutes. It depends on, their learning, where they are. But it gets us back involved with us being engaged in our kids' education. And then as they get older, you can teach them about passion, pursuit, and purpose. Because if these kids keep graduating with no interest or passion, first of all, they'll never find their purpose. Secondly, our kids are dying, going to the grave without even fulfilling a fraction of their purpose. And
Mhm.
so these things is absolutely necessary at this point in time.
So, and I think so we don't get cut off. You are such a fascinating interview. Let me just say that. Where you said you were working on another book, and tell our viewers where they can follow you.
You can follow me at Synergy Network LLC, um, on Instagram, and I have a Facebook page as the same. And if you want to see some of the YouTube video, you can go on YouTube and type in my name, Theresa Merritt-Watson, and you can purchase my book also on that site as well. And you can also purchase it on Amazon. Now, if you want to purchase some books and donate them to students, you can go to synergytrainingsolution.org and purchase one for yourself and purchase some for students and in the urban and rural communities.
I'm going to order them for my granddaughters. As a matter of fact, I think it's just very important. I love the way it's written. I have one biracial, well, two biracial granddaughters, and one African American. And I just think culturally for my biracial granddaughters, they definitely need that, to know their lineage of where they come from and why it's so much success attached to the color of their skin, the darkened hues of their skin. So, so thank you so much. I feel very inspired by you. I love speaking with you tonight, like I said, and you're extraordinarily knowledgeable. And you said you had one more book coming out.
Yeah.
What is the name of that book before we go?
Well, it's a science book. It's focusing on science, and I haven't given it an official name because I keep changing my mind. So that one is coming out, and then this year we'll also have one that deal with finance for first to third graders as well. And I'm writing that in conjunction with my son. So those are the two that I'm writing, and being that I enjoy that aspect, but I also enjoy teaching parenting class. I just get, and so I'm also doing a parenting book that I want to be able to connect parenting and Black history together, so that when you're making this process of teaching, being a parent, you can learn how to incorporate some of these things into your daily life to make sure that your kids get ingrained about their history.
Facts.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I appreciate
You.
you and have a great evening.
You do the same. Thank you so much.